Hey guys, this is Jeff from Evans Tuning. In this video, we're going to talk about people selling you shit that you do not need. So how do you know when people are trying to sell you stuff that you don't need? I got a couple topics I want to cover in this video and hopefully help you guys out. First thing I want to touch on is shops that only sell parts. There's shops out there, they have no experience with the parts in the real world. So, they don't tune the cars, they don't install the parts. They know a part number, they know a price, they're gonna sell it to you. They're gonna try to sell you things that you don't need necessarily. And I see it all the time coming in the shop. I have people come in, they have a whole build done on the car and they've probably spent a few $1,000s on there's parts that just don't need. There's shit on there that I have no idea why it's on the car. It serves no real purpose, and or it actually makes the car lose power or be worse. So be mindful of shops that only sell parts that have no background to support the part sale, giving recommendations based on something that they know for a fact works. So I get a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls daily about part recommendations. People, we're a tuning shop. This is what we do day in, day out. We know what works and what doesn't. I have things that I've seen be an issue, certain parts, certain brands that I just don't recommend. I don't deal with. I just prefer not to even mention names in the video because it's neither here nor there. But when people reach out to me and they ask me, is this what I need? Do I need this part, or what do you guys recommend? I'll give my recommendation. I'm not selling the part. I don't want to sell parts. My business and my focus here is tuning cars. My focus is very limited in what I do. A lot of times I've seen people say, what do you recommend for my car? What turbo, let's say, for example. And I'll say, I recommend this brand, I recommend this turbo. And they'll come back to me and say, oh, I'm the guy that's gonna sell me the turbo, he's telling me you don't know what you're talking about. This is what I want. And, I don't have anything to gain by telling you, to buy this turbo. I'm telling you to buy this because it works. Because I know it works, because I've done it on a handful of cars. I have real world experience to know it works. I'm not just selling you a part. I'm not trying to, push you in the direction of something that you're not gonna need. A lot of the people who sell parts are gonna sell you a brand that they carry or a part that they're gonna make a higher profit margin on. That's the way of business, that's fine, but you need to be mindful of that, and it happens a lot. The X shop will say, Evans Tuning doesn't know what they're talking about. That's not what you want. Well, I've been doing it for 15 years. I've been doing it a long time. I've seen what works and what doesn't. I think I have a good idea at this point, what's gonna be the right part for your application. And it's just frustrating to be able to recommend something and have another shop tell the client, say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. But when it comes down to it, that shop is only out to make the sale on the part, and they can't get maybe the part that I'm recommending. So be mindful of that, and keep that in mind when you're dealing with a tuning shop that's not trying to sell you stuff. So I want to kind of give a couple examples here so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm referencing when saying, somebody who's selling parts should have a technical background, with the part or with what they're recommending for your car. So I have guys that come in, they say, I want to make 500 horsepower. They don't elaborate. They don't maybe necessarily know what that means. Like, I want 500 horsepower, my car has 300 stock. A lot of times I'm going to tell a guy with a street car, supercharger's the way you want to go, because it's going to give you the least amount of problems with heat, with oil supply problems, coolant, with a turbo kit. You're going to have there's a lot of things that can go wrong with a turbo kit. So with a supercharger, it's generally, plug and play. It's generally more reliable. I'm not going to say all of them are, but generally they are. So my recommendation typically is for an average street guy that doesn't want to wrench on his car all the time, supercharger kit's the way you want to go. A lot of guys have this idea in their head, supercharger, doesn't matter what it is. Well, there is a definite distinction in the difference of a supercharger. The centrifugal supercharger, like a Rotrex or a Paxton, they tend to have a peakier power band. They build boost more towards redline, so you're not gonna have that low-end mid-range torque. Where a Roots or a positive displacement blower, from like a Magnuson or Eaton, they're gonna have off-idle, torque, they're gonna have boost, they're going to have more low end mid range. They're not going to make as much peak. So a lot of guys will say, I want to make 500 horsepower. Well, a lot of applications you could use a PD roots blower, or you could use a centrifugal supercharger. My recommendation in most cases is the positive displacement blower will give you a much more enjoyable power band and driving experience. A lot of shops may not even know that, may not even be able to tell you that. A case in point, I have a lot of Jeep JKs I tune with superchargers, and they've been coming in lately. Most of these guys have a centrifugal supercharger. With the Jeeps, they're putting on 36, 38-inch tires, they're redoing the rear. The truck is kind of a dog with the big tires on it. They're always looking for more power. Doing the supercharger is naturally the way they would want to go to pull themselves out of the mud or the dirt or wherever they're taking the Jeep off-road. A centrifugal supercharger does provide a little bit more low end and mid-range pull, but a roots blower is a much better type of blower for that application. And most of these guys just don't know it. They just go, I want a supercharger. It makes more power. They're gonna, they go with X company's kit when they really should be looking at a completely different kit. And the power band is much better suited to what they want. And it all kind of goes back into the same thing. Turbos, for example, you could, guys will say, I want to make 600 horsepower, on my 1.8 engine. Well, you could do that in a variety of ways. There's a whole bunch of different turbos to get you there. No one wants to have a laggy, crappy power band on the street. And a lot of people put these huge turbos on that, they can make 750, 800. Great if you want to upgrade on the road, but if you want 600 now, you really don't have plans on redoing your fuel system and upgrading your clutch and doing all the snowballing effect to get to the 800 horsepower, you'd be much better suited having a turbo that's going to fit your driving style or to make the car a lot more fun on the street. A laggy turbo on a street car is boring, and it gets old real quick, not being able to get boost between shifts, and you're actually slower than a car making a lot less power. But a shop that doesn't have the technical knowledge about turbocharging and real world experience is going to sell you something that they probably don't know works, or the power band will be suited completely wrong for what you want to do with the car. So these are the kind of things you need to keep in mind when you're going to buy a part and you're looking for a shop for recommendation. You want to make sure that they can actually tell you what it's going to do, or can give you proof, or have experience installing it. I mean, there's so many things that go into knowing a product. And unfortunately, most of the people in the automotive industry are just recommending parts based on a forum post or, what they've seen, on a video or something. Like, they don't actually have the experience to be able to help you, if you have a problem during the install, or if there's a problem with the product after you get it on your car and you need to be warranted. They're going to push you to the manufacturer. There's all kinds of things to think about, but you need to be mindful of these when you're looking to buy a part from a shop that's just going to push something on you that you don't need. And after you spent thousands of dollars, you're stuck with something that you're not happy with. So it's a real big issue that I see all the time. And it's something that I wanted to make this video to address, that hopefully people can kind of see it and realize and be mindful and not waste money and not be, have a car or a product that they're really unhappy with after they've done all the modifications. So I want to close this video out by just kind of recapping some things. I mean, when you go to a shop and you want to buy a part, they should be asking you a bunch of questions, not the other way around. They should be wanting to know, what's the application? What are you doing with the car? Are you, you tracking it, road race? Are you drag racing it? Are you daily driving it? If they're saying, what kind of power do you want to make? You say, I want to make 500 horsepower. They should be saying, okay, well, what other modifications do you have to support that? Because you're not just going to recommend a part that, is going to go, oh yeah, you can do this with, this to make 500 horsepower, but you're missing X, Y, and Z to even do that. So there's a multitude of questions that when people come to me and they ask me for recommendation on a part, I give them back usually 10 more questions. I answer a question with questions. Unfortunately, that's the only way that I can accurately give them the proper answer for what they want, and to make sure that everything is in place to be able to do it as a package as a whole. And that's what that's what you should be looking for when you're buying a part. They should be able to give you more than just here's a part number, here's a price. And keep that stuff in mind, guys, when you're shopping for your parts, and hopefully can save you guys some money and some hassle, and everybody's gonna get stuff on the car that they should and be happy.